Hello, my name is Jennifer Engel, and I'm here to do my first video blogcast. Some of you may remember me from Juicing with Jen a couple years ago when I had cancer. Um, but all of those videos are still great. I think there's still a lot of good messages in them. But I was at a different place back then. I was still in a place of fear. And today I am glad to come forth and tell you that I am no longer in a place of fear. In fact, from 2011, I began to experience what me and probably many other people have begun experiencing, which is an energy shift. Um, really being propelled to higher levels of what I view as spirituality. At first, I did not believe what was happening to me because what I believed was happening to me was that I was hearing messages from God, the divine, whatever you want to call them. So I spent from 2011 until now evaluating what I was experiencing, talking with many people, and finally now I feel like I'm ready to come out of the spiritual closet and say I finally understand that my purpose is to be a light worker. So Native Americans might call them medicine women. The spiritual New Age community today calls them light beings or light workers. And there's going to be a lot of them waking up um, ever since 2012. And many of our messages that we're hearing, one of the things that I'm finding is that the closer you are to God or Spirit or the divine or the collective conscious, whatever you want to call it, the more the message sounds the same. That's how you know if someone's a true light worker because the messages will actually sound very similar. So, a lot of the messages that we are hearing, and I actually began to hear this when I was studying and reading the Bible. A little background information. I actually follow mostly the Native American beliefs and spiritualities, but that's a whole nother topic and blog on how I got onto that. But I studied that intensely for 28 years. I've only studied the Bible and other spiritualities for about, well, since 2011, 2012. But when I did get into Christianity, I actually started with the book of Revelations. I compared and contrasted that to Black Elk's vision. I learned some things about him, and I started at the Old Testament and I worked my way up. I listened to an hour lecture on every single book, so I think I do know it pretty well. One of the things that I started hearing in the Bible and when I was reading the Bible from God is that we are the Christ that we've been seeking, that we can actually heal ourselves. Um, and that's actually starting to come through in science, not just in spirituality and mysticism. My specific thing that I've been hearing as I begin my spiritual teachings is how to teach everybody to live a life in balance. Um, we can actually heal ourselves by staying positive. Again, this is starting to be found in science. Just as we're only using about 10% of our brains, as more brain research is being done, they're also starting to find out that not only can we rewire our brains, but we can also possibly rewire our DNA. So we could actually begin to heal ourselves. I'm not saying that's going to be 100% of the case all the time. I'll be 100% honest. I'm still in the experimental phase myself, seeing if I'm actually believing a lot of this to be true. But from a lot of my experiences, I am finding this to be true. First, we need to work on ourselves before we can work with others. And you have to understand that a lot of this work, the shift that's going to start happening ever since 2012, is a lot of our spirituality in the past has been looking for something outside of ourselves, praying to a creator that's outside of ourselves. There has been a shift, even in religions, I think it's going to get even more and more so to going within ourselves. Meditation in all religions, as I heard some of my friends say today. I think the next frontier will be found inside of ourselves. The first thing that we need to do is we're also moving toward the era of love and compassion and peace. And as we begin to find that inside of ourselves, then we'll begin to see that in the world. And that compassion first has to start for ourselves. And the other thing that the spirit workers are starting to hear from the veil beyond is not to believe in the lies and the shadows. So as you begin to go within yourself, all of the shadows, all of the fears will start popping up. So you may feel that this is actually the wrong way to go at first. But the whole point of your shadows coming up is a lot like Alice in Wonderland trying to defeat the Jabberwocky. So as you go within, you're trying to override old programs and bring in new programs and new ways of thinking. So I have a message, which is the message that I'm supposed to deliver is to make sure that everyone sees special abilities. And as you start to go inside, you'll start to recognize that you're going to have abilities that maybe you haven't picked up on before. Or maybe you've always had these abilities, but they'll begin to be a little bit more clear and you'll be able to understand how to use them, and it won't be just an accident. So, for example, one spiritual teacher that I saw online says you might experience some things, but it just happened at random. So, a mother giving birth, for example, and seeing her child for the first time might be one of those moments where you really felt God, the divine. Some people say they're empaths, they can feel what other people are feeling. These things will happen more and more. You'll begin to know things about people and how they're feeling. And so you might start to actually experience what some people call sixth senses as you do this internal work, which you will gain by doing evaluation and work inside yourself. So that's the message. The internal work that you need to do is to find balance, which is first believing that it's possible. So if you don't believe that you are the Christ you've been looking for, if you don't believe that you can heal yourself, it's not going to work. Another way that we do this is by awakening. So being present in every single situation that you're in, putting your smartphones into your pocket, not doodling when somebody is talking, and just giving people your full attention. It's also going to have to require you to lose what I call illusions. So there were some times when I thought, okay, I totally believe, I know this, and then God, the divine, the collective conscious, whatever you want to call it, challenged me with something that I really needed to wrestle with. The cool thing is that God and the divine still wants us to be discerning, doesn't want us to just fall for anything. But it will challenge you to, and some of the things that you originally believed might just fall apart, and you have to let that happen. Because what's really happening is the more you let go, the more you open your mind, the more you move into curiosity instead of resistance, the more ego, the shadow, is going to hang on and not want to die. So you're going to start noticing your emotions. And you're going to start using your emotions as a compass. So if something doesn't feel right, it probably isn't right, and so that's okay. But if something feels right, then you know that that's the way for you. So one of the things with any spiritual teacher is if it doesn't feel right for you, you don't have to do that. And so by doing these things, by believing, by awakening your senses, by losing your illusions, by noticing your emotions, by using your emotions as a compass, you're all of a sudden going to start elevating your awareness. And at first, you're going to think this is a great idea. When I first started to raise or have that energy shift, the first shift of energy was such great, overwhelming joy. But like I said, as you continue this process to let go, ego is going to want to hold on. So at first, you'll begin to experience joy, and then the shadows are going to come, the boogeyman, and then you're going to wonder if this is really the right thing to do. But at least what I've found by working through my shadows is if you just keep going, if you carry that light inside of you, if you work through the extremely hard things, eventually you're still going to come out at the other side of truth and light. The cool thing is, as you begin to experience these things, the world around you, more often than not, did not change at all. The only thing that changed was you. And a symbol that's been popping up a lot for me lately is the infinity symbol. So on one side is fear, and on the other side is joy. And as you begin to experience things, and I'm not sure about you, but in my life, when I was younger, I had a wide girth of, if I was to experience change or joy, it would last a long time, or it'd be extremely dramatic and extremely intense. But as you practice listening to your feelings, it's actually going to go quicker. You're going to experience things a lot shorter, and eventually you're just going to find yourself right here in the balance at peace. So that's eventually where you'll get. So no matter what's going on in the world, you will eventually find yourself able to be that calm in the storm and able to rise above any difficulties that you may be facing. So over the next couple weeks, I'm going to go through a couple lessons. Next week, I plan on going through how do you live life in balance between the light and the shadow. I hope this has been helpful, and I hope you have a peaceful and blissful week.